I call to order this regular meeting of the Mount Pleasant City Commission this Monday, March 9th, 2020. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, has the roll been taken?
Yes, it has. All are present except for Commissioner Lalonde, who is ill tonight.
Okay. First on our agenda is a Census 2020 update, and Jacob Kane will be filling in.
Good evening, City Commissioners. Jacob Kane, City Planner, here to provide a brief update on the city's efforts for the 2020 census. First of all, in terms of coordination, we continue to work both internally with our Complete Count Committee, externally with our County Advisory Board, and with the university on getting a complete count in our census, which is sneaking up on us this week. We may have our first invitations coming in the mail to our residents as early as Wednesday, the 12th. Thursday the 12th. So we're really excited about that. It's finally here. Promotion is another thing that we're spending a lot of energy on. I saw you're all wearing the t-shirts. We'll talk about those in a minute. Our hand sanitizer was very timely. We got in when the prices were good. Your stocks took a hit today. Maybe grab some sanitizer before you leave. We've got a variety of other promotional items that we've either ordered and have in stock or that will be on their way. So feel free to stop in City Hall if you'd like to check those out. We'll be getting those out into the community soon at some of our events. This past Friday and again in April, we'll have flyers going out to all the public school elementary students. So it's a little over 2,000 students take home a flyer in their Friday folders to their households. So great free tool with the school district to get the word out about the census. We're working with local businesses to look at displaying some of our existing banners and maybe some additional posters so that we're out in the community raising awareness of the census. And I'm sure you've probably all seen stuff related to the census that's not coming from the city's efforts. I know just today I saw a census TV commercial. If you've pumped gas in town anywhere with a video board, you've maybe heard a census ad while you're pumping gas. So the word is out. It's out there from a variety of different sources, including the city. We were also really fortunate. Recently, we've had some coverage from the Morning Sun. We also were the feature story and the cover story in Central Michigan Life recently. So reaching students is obviously one of our focuses here, specifically off-campus residential students. In terms of events, we've got a variety of events coming up over the next month to reach out and get the word out about the census. The Central Michigan Home Show is next weekend, the 13th, 14th, and 15th. The Isabel County Sheriff's booth has offered to host some census materials for us at that event. It's a great opportunity to reach a broad swath of the community, so we're really excited about that. The city is going to be hosting events on campus, March 26th and April 9th, at both the University Center and at the Park Library. On both of those days, all day, we'll be on campus. We're going to have some radio remotes, do some giveaways, give students an opportunity to learn about the importance of the census for our community, remind them where they should count, which is here in Mount Pleasant, and give them a chance to ultimately actually fill out their forms if they'd like. April 1st is Census Day, and for Census Day, this will be at Town Center, also with a radio remote and some activities to try to encourage the community to come out, learn more, make sure everybody's aware that that's going on. You're all wearing your t-shirts tonight. Staff is wearing t-shirts at City Hall every Friday and at Public Safety in order to raise awareness with the community that we interact with on those days. In addition, we provided t-shirts for the recent CMU men's and women's basketball games, and those have been thrown out as part of the t-shirt toss promotion, just as another way to get the word out. Probably the most important thing for you all to know tonight, I don't know if Mr. Manager, if you passed those down yet or not, but the census has distributed what the initial mailing for the census will look like. It's a front and back form. It's going to have an ID number on it that represents your household ID so that when you go to the census website, you'll be asked to provide that ID and then you'll be able to fill out your form. Census Bureau put this out because they want to be clear so people know what to expect in the mail so that it's not a surprise when it arrives. As I mentioned earlier, Those forms, per the Census Bureau, 95% of households in the country should be receiving their invitation to take the census between March 12th and March 20th, so that's very soon. And people are going to receive consistent reminders until they actually complete that census, up until the point where they may actually have someone visit them at their door to get the form complete. So our residents should be keeping their eyes open for those forms to arrive. When they do arrive, they're going to want to visit my2020census.gov. They can go on, they can put in their code, they can take their census very quickly, very easily on that site, and then they'll be done, and they won't get any more mailings or have any door knocking if they're complete that census early. That webpage is up as of today, so if you want to check it out and see what it looks like, it's very straightforward. You can actually already fill out your census, but as soon as that code arrives, we'd encourage you to go there and check that out. So that's where we're at with the census, and I'd welcome any questions from the commission.
Any questions for Mr. Gain? Lori?
Could you repeat what the sheriff's office will be doing?
Yes, so the Isabel County Sheriff will have a booth at the Central Michigan Home Show, which is at Maury Courts on the 13th, 14th, and 15th. And as part of the county's collaborative efforts, the sheriff agreed, because they already had a booth at that event. We knew there'd be thousands of people attending that event, that they were going to host census materials there so that people attending the show can learn about the census while they're there.
Wonderful. The same sheriff office that needs a jail in the future from us, and I appreciate their collaborative effort with Mount Pleasant. I wish we could have returned the favor and listened to their presentation for that new jail. Would you please pass on to Sheriff Main the appreciation from the commission to help us get out the count and the vote to our census, for our census. And secondly, if we did offer wipes and hand sanitizers, we'd have it made.
Any other questions? George?
This is probably, I'm not sure this is a reasonable question. You probably already answered it and I missed it. But how do, if you're going on campus, how do students know what their ID is to fill out the census? Or
You can fill out the form online without the ID, but the ID is preferred, because then the Census Bureau will know, can correlate it and not have to continue sending mailings.
So when you approach students, they can fill it out right there without having to know anything?
Yeah, the main purpose of our time on campus is just to let students know that the census is happening, and that if they reside here in either it's Mount Pleasant, Union Township, somewhere in Isabel County, that they should count here even if this isn't where mom and dad live.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Do we have any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Commissioner Gillis.
Before the meeting starts, I would just like our lawyer, Mike, if you could answer a question before the meeting starts. Last meeting, we had a commissioner ask for a roll call vote, and he was denied that. I was wondering if you had any insight, if a commissioner would like a roll call vote by name. Is that allowed under the Roberts Rules of Order? I tried to find the information myself, and the way I interpreted it, that any commissioner can call a roll call vote. Do you have any information on that you could share with us before we start our Monday meeting?
Well, most time it depends, I suppose, and I haven't looked to see how the city has applied Robert's Rules of Order. So there are some municipalities that will take a strict interpretation of Robert's Rules. Some do not. So I would want to first turn to your ordinances, policies, board rules, or council rules to see if there's anything in there. Some municipalities will have a provision that says if one member of the council calls for a roll call, it shall be a roll call vote. Some do not. So in that case, we sort of default to whether or not a roll call vote is otherwise required by either statute or some other process. Like typically, municipalities will take a position, although you'll be hard pressed to find this in the law, that a roll call vote is required whenever you expend money. But for most municipalities, that's not actually the case. There are other statutes which will require you to have a roll call vote. Let's say, for instance, the Open Meetings Act and adjourning to closed session requires a roll call vote as a matter of law. So I have not looked at that question, but I can do that.
Okay, I appreciate it. A commissioner was denied last commission meeting. I personally don't see a problem with it. to ask for a roll call vote. It gives the public an opportunity to see by actual name call how people are voting rather than the ayes or nays or maybe a hand. It just reiterates transparency to the public on how people are voting. I don't believe in roll call votes for every vote, but if any commissioner, if I was mayor and if any commissioner were to ask for a roll call vote, I would not have a problem with that, just to make sure that we are transparent to the public on our voting. Thank you.
I'd just like to add that our minutes have all our votes, who votes which way, and the roll call vote was requested after the vote had been taken. So we did not proceed with the roll call vote at last meeting when it was requested. I would ask again, do we have any additions or deletions to our agenda? Seeing none, I will open up our first public input on agenda items. If you would like to talk about anything that's on our agenda tonight, you can please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes to address the commission. Seeing no one come forward, I will close the public input on agenda items. Manager, we have our receipts of petitions and communications.
We do. In your packet tonight, you have the report on pending items, which includes the monthly report of police-related citizen complaints that have been received. In addition, you have the October minutes of the Traffic Control Committee, correspondence received from Donald Inman and Glenn Irwin regarding the Michigan Street Lighting Special Assessment, correspondence received from Ryan Litwiller regarding overnight parking on Fancher Street. You also have a notice of a temporary traffic control order, number 1-2020, which is no parking here to corner sign on the east side of Kinney, south of High Street M20, and south of the signal activator. You will, after the traffic control order, you'll be asked at the May 26, 2020 meeting for final consideration.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Oh, and we do have one other correspondence that was at the dais tonight, correct? From Jeremy Sheets concerning the special assessment number 120. Next on our agenda is our consent calendar. Consent calendar items are items on the agenda with an asterisk next to them. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent calendar this evening? Seeing none, Manager?
On your consent calendar, you have the approval of the minutes of your regular meeting held February 24th, 2020, as well as for the closed session on that same date. Under bids and quotations, lime residuals, based on the bids received in 2019, we reduced the amount of lime residuals from the lagoons of the water plant last year. In order to keep the lagoons functioning properly, we need to remove additional residuals this year as outlined in the approved operating budget. The attached memo from Interim Director Jason Moore outlines the bids received and recommends a contract with the low qualified bidder. We are recommending you move to award the contract for lime residual removal to Block Farm Operators, LCC, for $21.25 per cubic yard, not to exceed $200,000. Next, you have consider a commitment to purchase road salt for the 2021 season through the State of Michigan My Deal Extended Purchasing Program. We purchase road salt through the State of Michigan's My Deal Purchasing Program. This program requires municipalities to make commitments in the first part of each calendar year. The My Deal program is the best program for purchasing road salt on a quantity basis statewide. The result is the best pricing available for those who participate. Staff is recommending the authorization to commit to purchase 500 tons as seasonal backup quantity for 2021. We are recommending this advance commitment to ensure that our inventory remains at the appropriate levels for future years. You also have, consider a resolution to allow for partial funding from MDOT for the 2020 Brown Reconstruction Project, Brown Street Reconstruction Project. The Brown Street Reconstruction Project between Broadway and North Drive is scheduled for 2020. Partial funding for the project will be reimbursed through an MDOT grant. Before the project can move forward, MDOT requires that the City Commission to approve the attached standard resolution, which then authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the grant contract. Staff is recommending approval of the resolution as a part of the grant process for the 2020 Brown Street Reconstruction Project as presented. You will also receive the city's request for the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe 2% allocations. Several departments have prepared 2% requests for project funding, and they are attached to your agenda for your review. It's been the practice of the commission to receive the requests at the first meetings in March and take formal action to submit the applications to the tribal council at the second meeting in March. This time allows the commissioners to review the applications, set priority levels, and indicate the highest priorities prior to submittal to the tribal council. You don't have to take any actions at this time on that. And then finally, you have the approval of payrolls and warrants.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillis.
Motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Commissioner Tolos. Discussion? Commissioner Gillis.
I have a question on the 2020 lime residual removal bid. That's interesting. Lime. We have a recommendation to not to exceed the contract amount of $200,000, but their bid was $212,500.
Yeah, we're reducing the quantity that they'll be
Oh.
removing so that it'll stay
Yep.
under that 200,000.
Okay, yep, I remember reading that. Okay, good, thank you.
Commissioner Tolos.
Question for Chief Loria, and I don't know if you can answer this or not. On the salt acquisition, are we locked in from last year's on the pricing? I don't see any pricing here. Does anybody know that?
Yeah, I'd defer to Interim Director Jason Moore on that.
Yeah, the pricing, it hasn't been bid out yet. This is a commitment for the quantity that we want. The pricing will be, after MDOT actually bids it out. We are committed to what was bid out last year, so we'll be making a purchase yet this year for the prices that have already been agreed to.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gillis.
One more question for you. When Block Farm operators buy our lime, do they use it on their own farms, or do they resell it to other farm operations?
That I'm not sure of. I think they're using it on their own farms, but I'm not positive. I'd have to check into that for you.
Okay. It's just that if they were getting some profit off it, it just seems like a lot of money, $200,000 to
Yeah.
remove 10,000.
Their bid price was, I think, around $3 cheaper per yard than last year, the contractor that we had, so we're heading in the right direction as far as that
Right.
goes. If they're able to resell it, then of course that price can come down even more, but I'm not sure what their plans are.
Thanks, Jason.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion of approving the consent calendar as presented, please vote by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, the same. And that is unanimous. Next on our agenda is our public hearing on special assessment roll for Special Assessment District Number 1, 2020, and consider approval of resolution number 5 for approval of the roll and setting of payment terms for the Special Assessment District. Manager Loria, did you have any comments before I open the public hearing?
I do. Or actually, no, I don't. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't have anything.
All That's fine. At this point, I will open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak on this subject can come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes to address the commission.
Hi, Glenn Irwin, 1018 Sweeney Street, Unit C. I won't be taking 5 minutes. I opened my notices of assessment on my properties last week. All 4 of my commercial properties in Mount Pleasant fell in valuation by about 10%. 10% drop in valuation in 1 year. I have asked other property owners in the city, and they told me the same thing happened to them. A 10% drop in 1 year is a disaster for the city of Mount Pleasant. Tonight, you are voting on the creation of a triple tax zone in the heart of Mount Pleasant. A triple tax zone will drive property prices down, with, of course, the valuations across the city going down as well. Are you prepared for another 10% drop next year? Tax revenues decline when property values decline. When devaluation hits the residential sector, you're going to have a lot of angry voters on your hands. The vote you take tonight is a very important vote. Not only will it influence the future tax revenues of the city of Mount Pleasant, but the county of Isabella and the Mount Pleasant School District. I'm opposed to the city passing this measure tonight. I fail to see how implementing a policy that will decrease future tax revenues is of benefit to anybody. Thanks.
Seeing no one else coming forward, I will close the public hearing. And I will open up discussion to consider approval of resolution number 5, and I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 5. Commissioner Alsager?
I move to, I'm not sure the right wording right now, but to approve resolution number 5.
Special district.
Okay, special
District 120.
thank you. I wasn't prepared for that.
Commissioner Ronan?
I support Mary's motion to approve special assessment for District 1.
Is there discussion? Commissioner Gillis?
I would like to make a friendly amendment to the resolution. Currently, if a property owner were to take more, or would not pay their assessment in total and wanted to spread it out over 5 years, the city would charge them 3% interest on what they owe the city. We, as a city commission, well, if this is approved, has decided to put these lights on Michigan and to charge the property owners along Michigan. I do not believe that we should be charging them also interest at 3%. I think this could be a small token to say that if you need more years and spread out over 5 years, that we would not charge you the interest because we are making this decision that you need extra lights and certain kind of lights along Michigan. I do have a problem with charging our community members interest on anything that we decide as a city commission to tax them with. This is just like a tax, in my opinion. So I would offer a friendly motion to the current motion that we drop the 3% interest rate for those business property owners that need to spread out this assessment over more than 1 year.
Is there a second for Commissioner Gillis? Commissioner Vice Mayor Perschbacher?
I second that.
Second. Okay. I'm going to offer a motion for postponement so that staff has time to review this. This would be a break from any policy that we've done in the past. And so I would offer a friendly motion. I think this is a friendly motion to postpone this issue until staff can get back with us and review this path forward. Commissioner Alsager.
I would support that.
Okay. Is there discussion on the postponement? All those in favor?
Hold on.
Commissioner Gillis.
If you read your packet, there is some bidding involved and timeliness to this bidding. So we have our treasurer right here, if we would like to have some information, if, that she, might be able to clarify an impact of not allowing, or not going through with a 3% interest. But I really don't know if any one of us should feel okay with a postponement because the bidding is in a timely manner. And that was also stated in the packet. Mary Ann's over there.
I would defer again to our interim director, Jason Moore, to see on timeline.
Yeah, the project's already been bid. We have a little bit of leeway as far as making the award contract. A couple weeks won't hurt us too bad. The lights need to be ordered in time for the construction, but we do have about 2 weeks, at least about 2 weeks that we could wait.
Thank you. Any other discussion on postponement? Commissioner Toles.
I will be supporting the postponement, but I will not be supporting the motion to have 50% paid by the general landowners and 50% paid by the city. I'd like to see that, again, as I mentioned before, 50% by the city and then 50% by TIFTA. I have to concur with Mr. Irvin on his summation of the assessments that went out. I have multiple assessments, probably about 20 or 25. All of them decreased by 7 to 10%. And I think the statement was made last time that, everything downtown has went up by 10%, which was incorrect because the assessment used incorrect figures on that. So there was an incorrect statement that was put out. But again, I will not be supporting this.
Okay. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of postponement till our next meeting, please vote by saying aye.
Did you get a second on
Aye.
that postponement?
Yes, I did. Can I get your hands again for all those in favor of postponement, please raise your hands.
Aye.
And those opposed, the same. So that is unanimous. Okay. Next on our agenda is item number 10A, which is Michigan Street reconstruction. I would assume that that would also be a postponement. So I would entertain a motion to postpone item 10A as well till our next meeting. Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
I move to postpone the Michigan Street reconstruction until the next meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Ronan.
I support the motion to postpone.
Is there a discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of postponement, please vote by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, the same. That vote is unanimous.
I apologize to the people of the chambers who came again to this public hearing for this assessment. I'm sorry we couldn't move on these items so that you wouldn't have to show up 2 weeks from now. So apologies to you.
Next on our agenda is item number 13, which is consider a budget amendment for the Tax Increment Finance Authority from the Economic Initiatives Fund.
Since February, the Tax Increment Finance Authority Board has been developing a business incentive package for Central Business District based on the following parameters provided by you guys. $80,000 one-time allotment from the city's Economic Initiatives Fund for business incentives. Any plan to be considered by the City Commission. The incentive is to be spent by December 31st, 2020, and any funds not used would be returned at the end of 2020. For the past year, the Tifa Board has been in deep discussion about selecting the best course of action to utilize the business incentives funding to strengthen both existing businesses and attract new businesses. At their October 23rd meeting, Tifa approved recommending to the City Commission that the business incentives focus on marketing the downtown district. After careful consideration and lengthy discussion, Tifa believes focusing on additional marketing for the overall district will serve to grow existing businesses as well as attracting new businesses to the downtown. In your packet, you had a summary of options provided by Tifa regarding the use of the $80,000. Tifa is requesting you consider the revised recommendation course of action and budget amendment of $40,000 from the Economic Initiatives Fund for the Tifa business incentives.
Commissioner Alsager.
I move to approve the budget amendment of $40,000 from the Economic Initiative Fund for Tifa.
Commissioner Ronan.
I support what Mary said,
Okay.
that the Central Business District Tifa businesses.
Discussion? Commissioner Gillis.
I just want to point out how ironic this is, that we're taking $40,000 from the Economic Initiative Fund, putting it in the Tifa for downtown merchants advertising, such as print materials, billboard, even blade sign. We will give up to $500 to businesses that want to put up a new sign on the front of their business. We're giving them $500, free. So as we're giving $40,000 from the Economic Initiative Fund to market downtown businesses, on the other side of the coin, we are charging the people along Michigan Street an enormous amount of money for new lights. Now, what is the most important to the City Commission? Marketing, paid by taxpayers for marketing downtown, or lights being paid for the parcel owners. I think that answer is clear, and I think if we have $40,000 to give out of an economic initiative fund for marketing, for blade signs, print materials, restaurant week, radio, website, social media ads, and billboard of $5,000, I'm pretty sure we can find some money to help out these business owners on Michigan Street. I do not believe it's taxpayers' responsibilities to market downtown businesses. I am all for the success of our downtown, just as we don't market for the businesses on Mission Street, John's, Taco Bell, Taco Boy, some of the homegrown staples that have been here for 50 or 60 years, we don't give them marketing money, but we do for our downtown. And there are plenty of downtown businesses that are left out on this marketing, $40,000. So I don't think that's taxpayer responsibility. On the other side of the coin, if we decide there should be lights along along Michigan Street, I do believe that is our responsibility because we as the City Commission are deciding that. But I will be voting no for the $40,000 to be given to the Tifa for marketing of those downtown businesses.
Commissioner Toles.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion on the table right now that the February 25th, 2020 memorandum is used as a guideline for the expenditure for the $40,000.
Can you repeat that motion again, Commissioner Toles?
Amendment to the motion on the table right now for the memorandum developed on February 25th, 2020. I believe 3 or 4 pages memorandum as using a guideline to spend this $40,000. They agreed upon spending this $40,000, but under this framework here. And I would like this framework put into the motion.
I think that means on page 40 of our packet. That's the graph that we're looking at.
Yeah. And the measurement of the incentives.
Yeah, it's 4 pages long.
I think that chart shows where the $40,000 would be divided up.
Right.
I second that.
Yeah,
Commissioner Ronan?
yeah, I have some concerns with that. The initial memo he's referring to allocates $80,000. I just came on the commission recently, but my understanding is that they came across a proposal several months ago, and it was rejected for that $80,000. Is that right? And we said they could only do $40,000 in marketing because $80,000 seemed to be a considerable amount of money. And I believe this is the commission that set that $40,000 limit. So I'm uncomfortable saying that it has to be used under a memo that says 80,000 when they're only using 40,000. The second thing has to do with, I believe these monies were generated from tax collected in businesses in this area, is that right? No, they weren't, okay, good. But that $80,000 number bothers me. I mean, if we use the outline and just say, hey, it's not 80,000, it's 40,000, then I'm okay with it. I mean, it's,
I'm sorry, I might have gotten lost. I think to your first point, last year the Tifa board came to the city commission with a proposal to spend the $80,000 on marketing, and we had a work session. And the commission at the time believed that they wanted the Tifa board to rework their proposal with some metrics to see how the money was being spent, what the value was. And yes, I think there was a little bit of sticker shock to the $80,000 being spent all at once. Commissioner Toles.
The reason I brought that up was the last time some expenditures were made for billboards. We wound up with a $8,600 foodie billboard that most of the business people down here were supposed to have input into that didn't wind up having input into that. Staff overrode them and did that billboard. Now you got this different agreement here which specifies that businesses down here are gonna have some skin in the game. They're gonna pay for part of it, and all I wanna do is, we can specify it's 40,000. I just want this followed. I don't want it overridden again like it was last time. And that's covered under billboards and matching programs.
Got it.
So I just want the addendum done so this memorandum is followed. That's all I'm asking for, at the $40,000.
That's the memorandum that's in the packet, correct?
Page 40.
Correct.
Page 40
So-
has it all allocated.
So I'm a little confused. So when I look at that memorandum, I see the November 2019 request, which is the annual total 96,000, and then the revised February 2020, which is the $40,000. And correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Toles, but you want to follow the February 2020 annual allocation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, is that a departure from what really the original motion that was recommended by staff?
No, Mr. Mayor, nope.
Okay.
But we have a motion on the floor, if I may, we have a motion on the floor in the second to, I believe, if I can paraphrase, to amend the original motion to include the revised annual February 2020 allocation. So we need to act on that motion.
Right. But there is no difference between what was recommended by staff and that memorandum, is that correct?
The original motion, I believe, was to do a budget amendment for $40,000, but it didn't specifically say this. I mean, it's implied, but is the second amendment specifically says it will be in this allocation.
Okay. Now I understand. Thank you for that clarification. Do we have further discussion on the motion? Commissioner Gillis?
Just 2 comments. This will only budget 40 grand, even though we were talking about 80,000 last year.
Correct.
And just for the public's awareness and transparency, it wasn't $80,000 last year, it was $96,000, because in our budget, we had already allocated $16,000 for marketing. They wanted another 80, so it was almost 100 grand for marketing downtown.
Is there any other discussion? So all those in favor of the motion, please vote by saying aye. Aye.
You're voting on the amendment, right?
Yes, on the amendment. Those opposed, the same. I don't think- So that was unanimous.
No, you're voting on the original motion.
Yes, as amended, yes. Yep. So we're back to the original motion as amended, which is the $40,000 budget amendment. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, the same.
Nay.
Okay. So that passes 5-1. Yep. Okay. Next on our agenda is item number 15, which is to consider an agreement with Michigan Community Capital for administration of the grant funding from the State of Michigan Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy for 410 West Broadway. Manager Lori?
Notification from Eagle is expected soon regarding the award of $565,000, a grant for the use at 410 West Broadway Street project. The City Commission took action in November 2019 to authorize the city to be the grant applicant. Once the grant has been awarded, it is important to have an agreement in place between the city and Michigan Community Capital to outline the responsibilities and provide appropriate protections to the city. The attached memo provides the recommendation and the draft agreement for the administration of this grant. We are recommending that the City Commission authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the agreement with Michigan Community Capital for the administration of the Eagle Grant for 410 West Broadway as drafted by the city attorney.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
I so motion.
Okay. Commissioner Ronan.
I'll support that. I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Commissioner Toles.
I will not be supporting this document for various reasons. Some of them are item 2, 3, 4, 9, and 10. Number 3 says MCC and Tatera will comply with all applicable laws, rules, regulations, and ordinance, including the grant terms and requirements of Eagle in the conduct of the activities. How's the city going to guarantee that? Another thing, number 9, if either party commences an action to enforce the terms or resolve a dispute concerning this agreement, the non-prevailing party will, upon demand, promptly pay to the prevailing party all costs and expenses, including reasonable attorney fees incurred by the prevailing parties. I thought this was a simple deal. You're getting a grant for them to get a DNR cleanup, and the city's exempt of everything else because we sold it to them for as is. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going, and I will not support this.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
Attorney, can you clarify some of this legal terms in here?
Yeah, which ones?
The ones that Commissioner Toles brought up,
It was number 2 and 9,
2 and 9,
is that correct?
2, 3,
2, 3, and 9.
Yeah, so,
9, and 10.
okay, so, This is an agreement really that the city is using Triterra to assist the city in administering the grant. It actually streamlines the process, but we wanted an agreement in place in order to define what the obligations were. So if we go through, I can go through each one of these. You know, paragraph number 2, because the agreement is with MCC, MCC is going to cause Triterra to assist the city at the reasonable request of the city at no cost to the city to prepare all the reports, other documents required for submission to EGLE, okay? MCC further will cause Triterra to prepare and submit all reports regarding the activities as may be required by EGLE as well, okay? So this is an agreement where the city is contracting or entering into the agreement with MCC to cause Triterra to administer the grant on behalf of the city, okay? Something that's required anyways. Paragraph number 3, MCC and Triterra have agreed to comply with all applicable laws, rules, regulations, and ordinances, including grant terms and requirements of EGLE in the conduct of activities. We will know whether or not they are complying because EGLE then has to receive those reports that Triterra will ultimately assist the city in preparing. Paragraph 4, except as to claims or losses arising out of the city or the Commission's own acts or omissions, MCC, Michigan Community Capital, will defend, indemnify, and hold harmless the city and its commission members, employees, officers, agents from any liabilities, costs, expenses, damages, and losses arising from or relating to A, the activities, B, any failure by MCC and or Triterra to comply with the terms of the grant or any law, rule, regulation, or ordinance, C, any demand, requirement, or request to return to the state any of the grant funds, and D, breach of this agreement. What that means is that MCC is going to defend and indemnify the city from any particular liability associated with the grant or the administration of the grant. Paragraph 9 says, if either party commences an action to enforce the terms of or resolve a dispute concerning this agreement, the non-prevailing party will upon demand promptly pay the prevailing party all costs and expenses, including reasonable attorney fees incurred by the prevailing party. If there is going to be an action to enforce the terms, it would likely be by the city against MCC or Triterra for failing to do something under the agreement. And in that event, the city could also demand, if they prevail, that MCC or Triterra pay the reasonable attorney fees and costs. Paragraph 10, if any provision of this agreement is declared void or enforceable by final judicial or administrative order, this agreement will continue in full force and effect, except that the void or unenforceable provision will be deemed deleted and replaced with a provision as similar to such void or unenforceable provision as may be possible and be valid and enforceable. This is known as a severability clause, which means that if there were a finding that any one of these paragraphs was unlawful or unenforceable, that it would be replaced by a similar provision that was lawful or enforceable, but does not affect the remainder of the agreement or any terms under the agreement.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gillis.
When this came to us in November, and we were asked to be an administrator to Michigan Community Capital for this grant, in the amount of $565,000 of taxpayer money running through EGLE, which used to be our DEQ, to Mid-Michigan Community Capital. This is a subsidy, folks. I brought it to the attention that we charge all of our residents hourly staff time. When they come in to get inspections, rental inspections, we are charged on an hourly basis what that takes out of staff's time, and that is charged to the person who's getting the rental inspection. Another example is our lottery for the marijuana retailers. We are charging them $10,000 for the ones that are going to be put in the lotto because we got more applications, because that's the time estimated supposedly of staff time that will cost to administer the lotto. So back in November, I did mention this, that this is going to require staff time, and our administrative people that we pay on an hourly basis to administer this subsidy for Michigan Community Capital. At that time, our commission decided that that should be looked into. Our staff did due diligence and came up with a number of how much this was going to cost on an hourly basis for our staff administration. And we are going to be paid $15,000 of that grant money for administrative cost. I just wanted you to know that this is how I look at our taxpayer money. This is the due diligence that I do for our community members to make sure that we are getting the right amount of money when we are doing work for other people, such as the Parcel B's new owner. So that $15,000 will be coming back for the amount of time that our administrative staff is implementing this $565,000 grant.
Commissioner Toles.
I have one further question. I'm just looking at the execution document, and I'm looking at this document, and it refers to MCC all through the document. On the signatory page, it says MCC Parcel B Title Holding Corporation. That's a different entity from MCC, isn't it?
It is, but MCC in the initial paragraph is defined as the MCC Parcel B Title Holding Corporation, which is an affiliate of MCC.
That'd be page 111. Starts with first words dewatering on the top of that page.
The very first paragraph under agreement defines MCC as MCC Parcel B Title Holding Corporation.
In the first paragraph of any legal document, it will always describe the entities that are going to be in the document and set them as how they will be presented.
I think he's talking about the second page where it says, whereas MCC's development of the property includes the participation of an affiliated entity known as 410 Broadway LLC.
Yes.
That's the one he's
What I'm talking about is the signatory page. I don't care what it says on the first page. The signatory that's signing this is MCC Parcel B Title Holding Corporation, period. It doesn't say exactly what is said on the first page. MCC Parcel B Title Holding Corporation, parentheses MCC, a Michigan nonprofit corporation.
That's just how we defined it for purposes of the agreement. Instead of spelling out MCC Parcel B Title Holding Corporation, we just defined it as MCC.
Is there any other discussion before I recognize Commissioner Toles?
Before we vote on this, I'd like to call for a roll call vote for the record.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? I'd just like.
So, because I've had an opportunity while we've been sitting here about the roll call vote, and it's kind of an interesting issue. So section 30.09 says, all votes shall be taken by yeas and nays, except for nominations to fill the mayor and the vice mayor position. The vote shall be so entered upon the journal as to show the names of those voting in the affirmative and in the negative, okay? I'm not aware of any other specific rule that the city may have regarding roll call votes. But under the Roberts Rules of Order, it also appears that in the absence of such a rule, then the default is a motion for a roll call vote supported and voted on in the same way any other motion would be taken. That helps. helps.
So I will take Commissioner Tolus's motion for a roll call vote. Is there a second? Commissioner Ronan? Discussion on a roll call vote? Commissioner Gillis?
I'd just like to relate to the city commission. There's no big deal about a roll call vote. It's just by name. And if you have no problem with the way you vote, you shouldn't have a problem with a roll call vote. I would think. Transparency.
I do want to say one thing. I think there's an insinuation that if we don't do a roll call vote, that it's not transparent. And I would just like to reiterate that in our minutes, everyone's vote is accounted for, you know, who voted which way. And generally at the end of a vote, I usually announce the vote count and who voted which way very clearly. So just wanted to put that out there. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of the roll call vote, please vote by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, the same.
Aye.
Okay. So that is 5 to 1 with Vice Mayor Perschbacher in opposition. Okay. All those in favor of the motion to consider the agreement with Michigan Community Capital for the administration of the grant funding?
Mayor, we just voted on a roll call vote, so that means she takes over.
Correct. I just wanted to reiterate what we were voting on.
Okay.
So, again, we are considering the agreement with Michigan Community Capital for the administration of the grant funding from State of Michigan Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy for 410 West Broadway. And
Roll call vote.
we'll do the roll call vote.
Commissioner Alsager?
Aye.
Commissioner Tolas?
No.
Commissioner Ronan?
Aye.
Commissioner Gillis?
Nay.
Vice Mayor Pierschbacher?
Aye.
Mayor Hirschenbosser?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So that motion carries 4 to 2. Okay. Next on our agenda is to consider appointments to the various board and commissions as recommended by the Appointments Committee, as postponed from February 24th, 2020. And I will turn this over to the Appointments Committee Chairman, Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
We have 3 appointments that we're going to make tonight. One is to the Building, Fire, and Sanitary Sewer Board of Appeals, which is a partial term ending December 31st, 2022. And the appointment is James Cridler. Is James Cridler here? Nice to meet you, James. There was no one else, no other application, not that yours was less than perfect, because you seem to have a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, and we really appreciate that. The second appointment is to the Parks and Recreation Commission, with a partial term ending December 31st, 2021. The appointment is Jeffrey Fisher. There's Jeffrey, okay, great. We had other applicants. We had David Alsager, Kristen Batzner, Karen Breedlove, Michael Conway, and Desiree Woodworth. The appointment to the Principal Shopping District Board was the appointment, the partial term is for December 31st, 2023. It will be ending. The appointment is for Kristen Batzner. I don't see her in the audience. The other appointments were, applicants were Christy Kramar, Linda Wise, and Brian Weeferich. I would like to know if there is any other appointments that somebody would have liked to have seen. This is what we have right now.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to accept all our appointments as presented. Commissioner Ronan?
I move to approve the appointments as recommended by the Appointments Committee.
I will second that motion. And all those in favor of approving the appointments as presented, please vote by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, the same. Okay. That is unanimous. Next on our agenda is announcements on city-related issues and new business. Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
This weekend and next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Broadway Theater, the Kids Players group, is going to be presenting James and the Giant Peach Jr. Is going to be Friday at 7 o'clock, Saturday at 7 o'clock, Sunday at 2 o'clock, and then the next weekend the same. The kids have done some great work on this play. The sets are awesome, and I hope that everyone would enjoy coming out to see that. You can purchase your tickets online at friendsofthebroadway.org, at Rick's, or at Ace of Diamonds, or at the door the day of the show.
I would like to remind the public that tomorrow we do have an election for the presidential primary, as well as I believe there's a millage for the Isabel County and Gratiot County RESD. So even if you are not interested in the presidential primary, there's a reason to get out and vote and support your local school districts. Commissioner Toles.
I'd like to inform the rest of the commissioners, in their packet was a report from AKT Peerless. They were, if we remember, during the last commission, Commissioner Esslinger and Commissioner Ronan were not present at that vote, but there was a 5-2 vote to proceed with doing testing in the landfill. And looking at the report here, one of the things that I said that could be taken from the minutes, they will be asking to install 6 monitor wells adjacent to the Chippewa River. Not only that, they're asking for an assessment between a half a mile and a mile of the old dump site to have 17 groundwater monitor wells to monitor the groundwater. Also, it says in here on the report, table 1, scope of work, prepare a remedial action plan. Based on the results of the previous sampling in conjunction with the proposed sampling, and remediation action is necessary. This plan defines the risk, fate, and applicable corrective actions required. And as I told you at that meeting, the floodgates are now open, people. And not only that, that is another additional $23,973 that we'll probably get some kind of grant for, but it's still taxpayer money, and this still isn't going to relieve the problem. Next thing you know, we're going to drill 6 wells by Chippewa River, and they're going to have something in there, and guess what? We're going to have to build a slurry wall and then start pumping water out of there for multiple years in order to clean that. And we had one person speak at public comment here about it. I wish he was here tonight. But this is ridiculous. Thank you.
Commissioner Ronan.
Yeah, could I ask a point of clarification, actually? Because I just don't understand how this works as well as I should probably, but why was that in the packet? Was that for discussion, or is that?
No, it's part of the 2% grant.
We're not discussing, right, that was, right, that's what I thought, okay. I just, okay. Got it. We will discuss it when we.
Next week, or at our next meeting,
When we talk about 2%.
commissioners are, you basically list your top 5 preferences for different ones that you find are the most important. Or Commissioner Gillis.
I remember what Commissioner Toles is talking about. We budgeted AKT Peerless with $24,000, or excuse me, $34,563 initially. We were concerned where this Pandora's box was going to lead, and it's now leading to another $24,000 being allocated. So far, for this looking into the dump, it's costing city taxpayers $58,536. Just about as much as we're asking the people on Michigan Street to pay for. So just to know that we are moving along but it is going to cost us some money to look into this. On a different subject, last week I had some concerns about only being placed on one committee for a 5-year tenure here at the city commission level, of 3 years on the planning commission. Myself and Commissioner Tolis were only put on one committee out of 13. Our mayor has been appointed himself to 7, appointed me to just 1, appointed Commissioner Tolis to just 1. His remarks to CM Life, unfortunately the reporter is not here this evening, was that because of my work schedule and my interests, I just want the public to know my work schedule has not changed at all for the last 2 years. I work a 8-to-5 job. Last year I was vice mayor, which entailed me to meet with the city manager every other Monday that we didn't have a commission meeting, and assume all the other responsibilities of the committees I was on. I missed 1 city commission meeting last year because of an illness. I had no problem meeting my committee assignments or the responsibilities and all of the extra meetings we have with planning commissioners, with the county commission who wanted to talk to us about a jail, and the sheriff's department. So the remarks that my work from 8 to 5 or my other interest is not true. I have not changed anything since I began on the city commission serving as your representative. I do not have a varied work schedule, such as being a waiter or waitress at the water park. I do have a 8 to 5 job. That does not mean that I cannot serve the public as I have for the last 4 years and 3 months. So I just wanted to make clear, and I was hoping the reporter would be here to address him and his quote from the mayor. So I will continue to serve. I will continue to do my due diligence, looking in my packets, looking over the capital improvement plan, tooth and nail, and the budget. And I thank you for your support.
Do we have any other announcements or new related business? Okay. Then we will, we have our public comment on non-agenda or agenda items. If you have any comment on city-related business, please come to the podium, state your name, and you have 5 minutes to address the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and as your TIFA chair, my name is Richard Swindlehurst, and I would like to thank you for allocating the assets that you did to the Central Business District tonight. We cannot compete in the same manner as the chains, Mission Street and Pickard Street. Most of us are independent owners in the downtown. We don't have the advertising budgets that the others do. So what we have to look at is cooperatively asking the TIFA board to help with our advertisement. We have worked on our advertisement program that we came up with, I think and the mayor sits on our committee for probably over a year, trying to make sure that we could get something that would help our entire downtown. And one of the things, of course, is how do we get people off the freeway? How can we get those people off the freeway, past Pickard, past Mission Street, to come to our downtown? I think what you voted on tonight will help that issue. We're also looking at, into that budget, doing handouts in the motels, the hotels, which part of that is the printing that will be about that. And we're always looking to find ways that we can improve on our Central Business District. We are not Mission Street and we are not Pickard. And we have to somehow get the traffic from those 2 areas to come to our hub. I totally believe that the downtown is the main part of this city. And I think it has been for years. And I hope that this will help continue the downtown to have some prominence. To be honest with you, some of us in the restaurant business probably could have financed that if it wouldn't have been for our friends at CMU taking the Western Weekend away from us. We figured that cost this town about $5 million. I can tell you personally, it's cost me $30,000 net. Now, that would have been money that I could have spent on other things. But unfortunately, it's gone. And nobody asked us either. They just took it. Now, thank you for allocating what you did to help us in the Central Business District. And I guarantee you, as long as I'm your chair, we will spend that very thriftily. Thank you.
Seeing no one else coming forward, I will close the public comment section. And we will move to recess for a work session upstairs on our solid waste pickup and conference room E reconstruction. Okay, it is 8:24, and we are meeting to discuss first the solid waste disposal issue at hand, I would say. The goal, well, we've gotten several requests because people have basically been recently notified by Granger or our code enforcement that they've had sort of the barrel with the wheels instead of following our standard trash pickup bag and tag system. And so the city has put together basically some options to review, and I guess I would probably turn this over to Jason Moore, interim public works director, because I think he's very well versed with the ordinance and the operations there. So, Jason.
Yeah, so that's the case. Our waste hauler recognized that there's several folks out there that are not following the ordinance. They were contracting on their own with other haulers, and so we sent, I think, 14 notices out to different residential properties, letting them know that they needed to follow the ordinance. We got some correspondence back from some of the rental owners, about one of the rental owners, indicating that they would like to continue to use the carts because of various reasons. I think the primary one would be the cleanliness of the property, and then kids are more likely to use the carts if they're available. And we also got communication from the Housing Commission about Pleasant Run and the way that they run their operations. And so we were just looking for some direction from the commission as to whether we should continue putting out those notices. We've got a list of about 10 more people that we kind of put the brakes on putting those notices out until we got a direction from you folks about how you want to handle that. So that's one of the issues, and then depending on how you want to handle that, our waste hauler, Republic, has given us the option of possibly, well, they will allow us to use, offer those cards to the duplexes or really, it's anything over 3 doesn't need to follow the ordinance. So 3 under, they need to follow the ordinance. So we'd be looking at maybe duplexes for just for the cards. If that was something that
So my question is, if you're saying we could provide carts, so then they would be responsible to the city rather than responsible to private contractors?
No, I'm sorry, maybe I should have phrased that better. Republic would actually be the ones providing the cards. We could allow Republic to do that. Currently, that's not part of the system. We just offer the bag tags. So we would allow them to offer that. Now, if we wanted to go that route, then they're looking for an extension of the contract so that they can recoup those costs associated with that cart. So if they have to provide 20 carts, then they want to be able to make sure that they can recoup that cost.
But, apologize for interrupting, but they're not recouping that from the city, right? They're recouping it from the
That's
owner,
correct.
the property owner.
We would be charging the property owner accordingly. Republic adds another $1 a month to that, to our contract for every cart that gets put out there.
I apologize, I'm slow with this, and I guess, I just need to get my head into it.
Mhm.
But the, so what we're saying is the city, right now, the city's not involved in this.
Yes, the city is involved in this because we bid out the waste hauling.
No, I get that,
Okay.
but if,
Yeah.
Jeff Jakeway, or this guy, or the other person there, they went and made their own arrangement, independent of the city.
Correct.
And-
Against.
Against, again, but I mean, independent of the city, they just, now, if Republic now said, fine, we'll do this, is the city involved in that, or are they directly dealing with the city, dealing with Republic?
No, it will be through the city, as is now.
Well, that sounds,
And we
that
have the
sounds-
changed ordinance.
Yeah, that sounds great, that sounds, I mean, that,
You wouldn't need to change the ordinance if you were going to still require them to use the city service.
I think that's
It would
great.
just be changing how the city service is offered.
Okay.
To duplexes and triplexes, we would choose to not only have the bag tag system, but you'd also allow to use carts too.
Yeah.
But you have to purchase that cart service through the city, not directly from the
That's fine.
Okay.
trash
that's
provider.
fine.
And do the Republic trucks have the capacity to easily handle carts?
Yes, in fact, they would rather we went with carts, all around.
The city of Greenville does. That's how they run theirs.
One of the downsides that we see with the carts is that it doesn't encourage recycling like the smaller, when you have all that capacity, it's a lot easier to throw things away. So, we worked up a price for the carts of $28 per month, which is basically just what the equivalent of tags would be, which is a little bit more expensive maybe than if you contracted yourself with those folks. But again, that helps to encourage people to stay with the tag system and encourages them to stay.
Now, just because my lack of knowledge is vast, what happens, someone said, talking about Granger here, so, right, isn't that what I just read?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what happens if I say, well, I don't wanna use the city, I wanna go with Granger?
Do that.
I
Not
like
currently.
it, I like it, so, and you're arguing that there's an economy of scale, right, is that what your argument was, that if we have everybody on the same page, then we all pay less? Is that?
Yeah, the vast majority of the, well, I can remember 70% of the costs are the fixed
I guess,
costs
yeah.
of,
Yeah,
driving around.
driving
the
around
city.
and having
Yeah.
people.
So the more users you can have, the.
So my question is sometimes you see waste management bins out there. Are those people that are outside of the ordinance that,
Yeah, either they've got the 4 or more units, or they're a commercial establishment, or something, but they're.
Or rooming and boarding.
Outside of the,
so, and so part of my concern with this is the cost associated, because like in the memo, 70% of the cost is just traveling the city, the mileage. And so if we're gonna allow the bins, can we force other people who have 4 or more units, maybe minus large apartment complexes, to say, hey, you've got a contract with Granger, you can't have this outside agreement,
Republic or Granger?
Yeah.
or Republic.
Yeah.
whoever ours is.
Yeah.
And my fear is that's an easy lawsuit, right, so that's a freedom of trade, right, so somebody's gonna come at you and say, hey, you
I
don't,
think
you
you
don't
can change
think.
the ordinance to,
So you don't think if you just go with one provider, someone can't come at you and say, hey, you're restricting my, I'd be surprised.
we would probably wanna be careful that, because I'm not sure why the ordinance was originally set that way, but it could have to do with private driveways and things like that, because once you get into those complexes that have more units, you don't wanna be driving, we don't want our contractor driving onto those private driveways and that.
Right.
Have to deal with the damage and everything caused there.
For example, with the Pheasant Run, you mean that they might be one that would be exempt?
That's actually a public street, so we can drive our trucks down through there, that's not really an issue.
Yeah, they've been violating the ordinance for years and years.
It appears that way.
And so when you say $28 a month, is that one pickup or how many days, is that
That's-
weekly?
That's weekly.
So that would be $7 weekly to be picked up, that large of a container. They get $7, and our tags are what, $3 now?
$3.20.
We figured the price to be roughly what it would be for 2 bags out every week. Maybe that'd be the equivalent of the price of the cart, plus the charge that the public's charging us for the $1 a month.
And would they be picked up at the same time the bag and tags were being picked up, or is this a different,
They'd be on the same road, so the same truck does the pickups, yeah.
well, my reservation is duplexes always want to be considered the same as single-family homes. That's their biggest complaint, people that build duplexes, people that own duplexes, we want to be considered the same as a single-family home. We should be allowed in single-family residence, they want to be treated the same, they want everything the same, yet now they don't want to be treated the same for garbage. So, you know, maybe, I mean, when I have both kids at home, maybe that would be a better, financing for me to go to a cart, rather than spending $3.50 a tag, 15 cents a tag. So I think we are discriminating against homeowners and making it easier for duplex owners to get rid of their trash. And the bottom line is, which this commission always talks about, is recycling and sustainability. If we want to encourage sustainability, I know you're big on that, Will, that's your middle name, sustainability. You might want to not consider this because with that bigger container where they can throw away things, and maybe their landlord is paying for this, maybe not, maybe they are, it's included in their rent, or you know they add that on. I think to encourage this recycling, it would be better for us to say stay with the bag and tags and actually have that across the board, like all our residential properties. I don't think we now when you're moving up to a 4, 6, 8 rooming and boarding. And that's somewhat different because some of the dumpsters are placed in the alleyway in our south of High Street student area. The concerns with that, and also north of High in previous years, has been the wear and tear on alleys, because those big trucks go down the alleys, they tend to break down the alleys, they crumble curbs as they're leaving the alleys, entering the alleys. We are trying to get away from those large trucks literally ruining the alleys and having to be rebuilt or refurbished. So I don't feel comfortable knowing that these people have been violating the ordinance for so long, and somehow that's been off our radar. And I think to encourage recycling and sustainability, and the fact that every time we talk about duplexes and to duplex owners, they want to be treated just like single family. And I think this is one instance where we should hold true to what they're asking us to do. I'm sure there will be other people that are in single family residence that say, well, I'd rather have a container. I mean, that'd be better for me.
That would be up to you guys, but that's not what we're.
That's not what we're talking about right now. Yeah,
This is because people were finally found out they were violating the code, and then they want the ordinance to have it changed because they're in violation.
No, like I say, mainly the recycling. If everybody started using that, you probably wouldn't hear recycling.
I think
It's just
I like
something.
the idea of Republic adding in carts to their services.
I do as well. I think it just opens it up. As long as the city, I mean, what you worked out.
So would you be open to any single-family home being able to get that container and that same deal as a duplex?
I don't see why, I probably would, to be honest. But I don't, that's not what we need to discuss tonight, I guess. We can put that on the agenda for another night, but I probably would. I mean, I don't, let them do what they, I'm not sure this is something we need to regulate unless, if there's no financial implication. I think
And it seems like it's more-
recycling has changed.
I was gonna say, it seems like it's more geared towards duplexes.
Yeah, sure.
That would have more trash than the single families would have.
And it's.
It's a duplex, each side gets a container.
But these are rentals
It's
to
just a one
students.
single-family home. Each side gets a
Yeah.
container.
These-
It's no
these-
more than any other
Yeah.
home.
These are rentals to students they're talking about here. They're rental to people who, you know, so
Not necessarily.
well, I think that's what Jeff was talking about. I spoke with him on the phone today. And, because
Who was talking?
Jeff, his letter here, I
Oh,
called
Jeff
him, I
Jacob.
didn't understand what he was talking about, to be honest, so I called him and talked to him. But, I think recycling really has more of that. In most, you know, there's lots of initiatives we could do for recycling that I'd like to see. I think what people do personally, I think there's been a campaign. I remember when recycling started, I said, nobody will ever separate their trash. It was my, you know, and everybody does it now, so. You know, we could do things like most cities, many cities, no longer allow people to have plastic bags. Like they ban plastic bags in the city, or they charge, or they require stores to charge for plastic bags. That's a I mean, there's tons of things we could do if we were really serious about encouraging, you know, recycling type things. I'm not sure this is one that I want to hang my hat on.
If you guys don't mind, I think Brian Kench has.
I'm sorry, Brian?
Yeah, I just want to remind you, one of the things I think we have on the books too is that we have a certain time frame that cars have to be taken back from the streets. So if we open that up entirely, that will create some additional code enforcement duties potentially.
Sure. Well,
As with the duplexes too, that don't drag them, because they're only supposed to be out there for the day. And they don't tend to be very timely in removing those carts. And one last question, the $28, it is automatically on a monthly basis, even if you only put your cart out twice a week.
We would bill it on the utility bill, that's what we're envisioning it, what was done. So in order to do that, we would require the utility bill be put in the owner's name and not in the tenant's name. So that would be a change that we've never done before, but we're recommending that if you want to go cart system for duplexes, then it needs to be in the owner's name, otherwise it's gonna be really hard to
Of course,
prorate
of
when
course.
somebody
No,
comes and
that's-
goes
yeah,
from
that's
that.
good.
So that would be,
if
And
that
that's a
owner-
big thing for landlords, you guys, that are having utilities put, and mostly water, because in the water bill, most of the time, landlords make the tenants put that in their name unless it's included in
more and
there.
more are moving towards putting it in the owner's name, but there are still some landlords that do
Okay.
it in the tenant's name.
But the point is, if I was an owner and I didn't want to do that, I just have to use bags. And that's still.
Correct.
So they're saying if the landlord wants to opt for that, that this is what happens. If you don't want to do that, use bags, and we've already got a model in place for that, right?
And the other caveat was, this Republic is making us stick with the contract, the same pricing for an additional year in order to be able to offer that service too. So there is a financial impact.
What's the financial?
Say again?
We have to extend the contract without bidding it for one more year if we're gonna offer the service.
Do we have a history? I mean, what's the 5-year history?
So they're strong arming us
Well,
into extending their
Can
contract.
I ask a question?
It could be
What's the
yeah, it could
what's
be
the
short,
5-year
but,
history? Every
you know.
time we bid it out for the last 5 years, I mean, have we ever gotten a bid that was lower in the last 5 years?
This is actually, we had to raise rates because of this bid.
Right.
So this is higher, but that's not, who knows what's gonna be the case in 4 or 5 years, you know?
Well, and if we,
As far as,
could you plot that out for, I mean, could you, I mean, there's no way to estimate that.
Yeah, not this early, I don't think.
And right now, how long does their contract run?
4 years, and we'd be extending to 5, I think.
Oh,
So we're still with them for how many years? Are we in the middle of the contract, or
I think this is your.
This will be year 2, right?
this is
so we're
year
extending it for
2?
1 year.
Two.
Well, one additional year.
One additional year.
One
But we
additional
have
year.
it 3
Yeah, no,
more
that's
years
fine,
instead of
that's
2
fine,
more
that's fine,
years.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
How does this affect Pheasant Run? Because they've been using carts, but they've, from the memo that I got, it sounds like they're using carts to dump in their own dumpster.
Correct.
So how does that affect them?
Yeah, and how do
Yeah,
they
it's-
have a dumpster?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they have a dumpster. Well, they have a dumpster for their administrative building, so they will continue to have a dumpster. This
For
is
the
why
admin building.
the situation there is a little unique, because what they did was they purchased carts for their tenants, so they're privately owned carts, so that they could just use the dumpster that they have there for their administrative building. So we would be, in order to enforce the ordinance, we would have to go in and tell them, you know, you can't use these carts anymore, you can't use that dumpster, you've got to use the tag system. Which is what the ordinance says that they should be doing at this point, unless you were looking to give them an exemption because of the different criteria that they spelled out in their letter.
But if we change the way we're talking about it, then it's all good.
No, I don't think so. I think that they would still have an issue because they don't want, they're making an economic argument for using their dumpster because, you know, they can have everybody using that dumpster and it's far cheaper for them to do that. Now, if we might plan on both and that each one of their tenants would have to pay $28 a month, I think that they,
I see what you're saying.
it's not gonna solve their problem.
Right.
So was their dumpster approved when that site plan was approved? Was there a dumpster enclosure? Well, obviously, there's not a dumpster enclosure because we
No, I don't
haven't done
think
that
so, and
yet.
I don't think the dumpster was on the site plan, but it wasn't a very robust site plan, I guess. So I didn't see it there.
So they're in
As far as I know,
violation of that,
dumpster's
too.
been there. What's that?
It's a violation of that too. If the dumpster was not on the site plan, then they have no right to have a dumpster there.
That I'm not sure, I guess. I think it was in the 80s that went in, so it's been there for a long time. And I don't-
You're not on that, Brian?
Yeah, I didn't know there'd be a test question. They may still be able to put the dumpster in, but they would have to enclose it. Our ordinance is relaxed a little bit more than what it has in the past, and that actually allow a wood screen as opposed to a masonry wall. So that may be something that we need to look into.
What they're doing seems to be working, right? I mean, if you look at the pictures of it, or am I missing something?
No, that's certainly the claim that they're making is that this system works very well for them. The question is, are they different than everyone else? Should they have an exemption? And what's that exemption look like if you want us to make that?
You could think of it as maybe it's a complex,
Yeah,
not all
agree.
individually owned, unlike where
Right,
Rosewood, they're
right.
all individually owned in that
Yeah.
complex, where these are
Mhm.
all owned by the same entity, so, and plus it's tax exempt, so it's not,
Yeah, it's a public housing.
it's a pilot exemption, so it's really not a parcel that we can look at and say, there's 4 different distinct owners. So it's got some uniqueness to it, so we might be able to investigate if that's something you wanted us to do. Is there a way that we could exempt that from the ordinance based on the fact that it's a complex owned by the same entity? And we have to, of course, look and see if there's anybody else that we're not thinking of that meets those criteria too.
Yeah.
We're gonna come up with some
Right.
criteria.
If we say, okay, we're gonna allow people with 3 or less units to do the cart system, and we bid out our solid waste every 4 or 5 years, if we decide to go with a different waste hauler, is that gonna incur costs because they'd have to get a new bin with the new waste hauler?
Yeah, the Republic did mention that in the meeting that we had with them, just looking through my notes to see what that cost was. It almost seems like it was like $2.50, no, $3.50 to change out the cart, you know, on a new contract. So if you've got 100 of them, then that's one thing. If you have a bunch more than that, then yeah, that could get pricey. But yeah, $3.50 is what they charge to swap their cart for, you know, if Granger got the contract next time around, then they would charge us $3.50 to switch this.
And in the memo, it seems, would this impact, how would you see this impacting the rates? Because if we,
Well, I would say, it would seem that if you went with this cart scenario, then the people that have the cart are probably going to be paying more than their fair share because they probably won't utilize all of that volume, and they're paying for all of that volume. So really, it would probably help the rates, you know, refuse rates anyway.
for people who are gonna continue to use the bag tag system.
Every year we've raised the bag tag system. Every year we've raised that.
Raise the rates you're talking about?
Yes, to purchase a bag or a tag.
Right.
Mary Ann,
We've looked at it periodically, but it hasn't done every year. We did it 2 years ago, we didn't do it this last year. Wait till the next contract, so it usually follows when the contracts are, we look at trying to increase cover the entire contract, so we aren't doing it every year. But the last one was very significant because of the increase in the contract and the change in the refuse industry at that time.
So going with this, it almost makes it more incentive that we would stay with the same contractor, because if we went down this route, everybody would have to replace their containers with new ones.
Yeah, I would guess that that would be a consideration when you're determining who the low bidder is on that contract. If the, the current contractor will have a $3.50 per cart advantage compared to other folks, I suppose.
Brian, what, how much, you probably don't write a lot of citations, but you probably do a lot of maybe like warnings for people who have garbage left out. How much, can you ballpark figure that?
It's an education process followed up by, watching for a change in behavior, from them, and then at the last, as a last ditch effort, it would be a citation, which we don't write very many.
Yeah.
We don't. But it, it does cause reminding, and it's just one of those things that, you don't just reach for the ticket book and, hit them. And what we find is, as people become more regimented in taking it back, or taking their container back, the other houses tend to follow suit. So if you get a good one that is always on top of it, or a couple, that resonates to neighbors as well.
Right.
So, but not very many. But we do the education often.
Yes.
Well, I think in the vision of fairness, that if we were gonna open it up to duplexes that have been violating the code for this many months without anybody catching them, that we should at least allow single-family homes, if they wanted to use this system, to be able to do that. I'm not in favor for this system. I just feel it's discriminatory or treating people differently when duplexes have always asked us to think of them as single-family homes, only 2 on a lot, and we're giving them somewhat of a choice if they want to use a container or a bag and tags, which everyone else's residents don't get that choice. Because these people have been in violation for this many months or maybe even years.
I'd rather we go slow, to be honest, and just try this step. And, see how it works, and if it doesn't, I just don't know what I'm not a trash collector. So, and then if it doesn't cause any problems, then I'd argue maybe we extend it, but I don't know that I'm gonna make a jump on it to fix a problem that we don't have right now.
Something that I would be interested in seeing, and it might be difficult to calculate with just our current, what we look at, but how much waste are we, is the city producing less waste with the bag and tag system versus what we would potentially produce with, saying, hey, you can get the container or not? And I think there's probably a lot of numbers in there.
Yeah, I don't know how to quantify that, other than that, it seems that we have an above average recycling rate in the city, right? As far as if you were looking at statewide figures. And clearly, that's the volume of waste that there is. There's the recycling and the refuse. I don't know how else you can get rid of it, so I don't think you're gonna produce any more than that quantity, so.
Yeah.
I think that's really what you're looking at is, you're just trying to figure out if the recycling is gonna go down or not.
It seems, I think this is something that Commissioner Dills brought up, it'd be likely that if you could throw everything away and you're paying for it anyways, you might be less likely to throw things in your recycle bin, even though you're already paying. You're paying $250 a month to recycle basically unlimited amount of recycling,
The
in
point,
theory.
the point for this problem is that it already exists. I mean, we're not gonna change any behavior here, we're just making it legal, what they're already doing, right? I mean, at least in the current, if we just stick with what we're fixing, they already have these things in place, or not everybody does, or.
I mean, we could continue to do exactly what we are and chase down those folks that are outside the ordinance, and I think that.
Right, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah,
And how many are outside the ordinance? Approximately 10, 20? How many
That I don't
people?
know. Like
I
I
mean,
say-
we're having complaints and we're changing
sent out
things for these people that are complaining,
The
but
14 notices, and then I think we've got a list of about 10 more. And we've sent out notices to the waste haulers, just to let them know, stop doing this. It's not, it's against ordinance. Please call us and ask us whether or not the properties qualify. So that's, what order of magnitude.
approximately 25.
Right now, that we firmly know of. Yeah.
Would it potentially have negative effects on the MRF because they rely on a certain quantity to sell, and the more they have, I imagine the more profitable they are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, on certain
Right.
commodities anyway. Other ones,
Sure.
they'd be glad to maybe not have there at this point. But yeah, say cardboard, yeah, it would be a bad thing.
What, they can't get rid of cardboard? They're not
No,
selling?
they can't get rid of
Yes,
cardboard.
okay. Yeah, okay.
That's.
Is there other information that the commission feels they want before we move ahead on something like this? If we do want to move ahead. I mean, I would be interested.
I don't know what I don't know.
Right, it's
Yeah.
hard to say, right? I would be interested in just sort of estimates about, how this would impact the MRF, how would this, would impact our recycling rates.
Again, I just want to say this is already being done, so this is going to have no impact on them. These people are already doing.
They're already
what-
violating.
They're
the
already,
ordinance.
this is what's taking
Well,
place right now.
The people who aren't violating will be able to start
Right.
using it, so you can have more.
Do we know how many there'd be there if we just stick with,
Duplexes and triplexes we have?
I'm not sure.
that are not using the things, that are using stuff that,
But we probably get a number of duplexes. And
Yeah.
triplexes, but-
and those duplexes aren't already using a cart.
They should be using.
They should be
Bag and
using
tag.
tags and
They should be
bags.
using tags, but they're probably
Yeah,
not.
as far
I guess.
as we know, they are. Otherwise, they would be in our list.
Okay. No.
But it will be exponentially higher.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Well, I just have a problem with all the carts being out on the roads after the garbage has gone through and they left there. I think we're making a nightmare for code enforcement because there will be people that aren't prompt or timely and they're their cart sets. And granted, there might be a extra increase in compliance because obviously they're not complying right now with city ordinances, so, yeah.
I'm a little unclear on the direction we're
Yeah, I
going.
am too, I guess.
Yeah, no,
I guess.
because my comment early on was to have carts from Republic that then were responsible to follow city directive.
Yeah,
Right.
I would like, and I support Mary on that. So there's two of us at least who
So
support for that.
two-
So how about other people?
Two for cards, one no, and then not for sure for, I know we're not voting, but we're trying to get to a
Yeah,
consensus, and I don't have a consensus with where we're going yet.
Well, I can tell you that people that recycle are gonna continue to recycle. People that don't recycle are not going to pick up recycling. I mean, that's just not going to happen. If that's not their mindset, they're not gonna do that. But I think that, looking at carts, is a reasonable solution for this if,
To get more people in compliance.
to get
Right.
more people in
And
compliance,
for
yeah.
the city to get the money that
And
they're
I
not
know
getting.
that there are, the thing with the bag and tags is that sometimes people cannot, they buy the 20 or whatever in a thing, $31.50, I think it is to buy them, or something like that. But when you buy them, you may have more garbage because you haven't been able to afford some of those tags. So when you go to put them out, you do one bag at a time. You try to, you keep the garbage maybe in your garage or the back room or something like that. If we allow them to have containers, then at least there's not that pile up of garbage. And I have driven past some houses that have that, like on their porch, or they have it, you can see it when their garage is open. And, that just, it opens up the door for cockroaches and rats and mice and possums and
That was
You
the
know.
argument from Pheasant Run, that twice a week plus big items,
Yeah.
since they have a dumpster.
Yes, yes. And they also said that that helped it helped keep from having a spread of bed bugs when there was bed bugs in certain units. They were able to get rid of the stuff right away. Yeah, which just makes me like
Which
crawl all
seems like
over thinking about
a
it.
good idea to keep them as an exception.
Yeah,
Yeah, but,
well, being public housing, yeah, it's a different unit. But I do think that if we're gonna go, if we decide to do this, I think that that's a reasonable way to go. I don't think it's going to change, that people's understanding or mindset on recycling. Yeah.
I would like to see those numbers on the timber recycling, because I do think that our ordinance is somewhat effective at changing behavior, because recycling is incentivized, and if you can reduce your waste,
Yep.
you can pay less.
With a family of two now, that we have shown that's true.
yeah, same here.
Very much true.
And you're already paying for recycling.
Yeah,
That's,
and you
doesn't
just
matter if
use
you use it or not.
Mhm.
So, and,
How long has this ordinance been in effect?
I'm not sure. $1993, when it originally passed. Something like that.
So, yeah.
So,
Or have we muddied the water? or-
So I think what I'm hearing is that you want us to do the research needed to, offer the carts, starting it slow to the duplexes and triplexes only in the beginning. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. And we'll investigate, whether that needs an ordinance change or a resolution setting down fees or what, or both.
And I guess estimating if there's any negative impact on the road.
If there will be.
But I assume these people will still, we're not gonna send out any more notices to people. We're gonna just, since it's under review, we're not gonna.
Well, I would, I guess that's a good question. We've got some notices that are just to single families, and so I'm assuming that those should go out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the ones to the duplexes.
We'll just.
so single families have been using
have been using it.
the containers.
Yeah, they've been
Private
outside the ordinance as well.
When I first moved here, I got set up with trash because I didn't know the city offered it. And I had one of those Republic dumpsters, and then we did that for like 3 months, and then suddenly they took it away, and I said, well, what are you doing? They said, oh, well, you're in the city, you have to, I'm like, well, you could have just called me and said, hey, we're taking your dumpster, but they just took it, and I had to call them and find out. I'm like, I paid my bill, I don't understand this. So sometimes Republic sets it up with people, because they do it online. And then they don't check, it doesn't check whether or not they're in the city or not, or if the ordinance covers it. So it happens.
Do you have enough to go forward?
I think so.
Oh, good.
We'll move forward with that, bring it to you in the next couple of meetings.
Next on our agenda is the conference room eve renovation. This was something that was passed in last year's budget. It's allocated for approximately $8,000 to expand conference room E, and we would have our work sessions down there. Is there any questions for staff, concerns? George?
So why do we have to have a police officer here at the door? Why?
We do that because if we're up here and we have to leave the doors unlocked, right? Somebody comes in, they have access to the whole building and nobody, I mean,
Got it, okay, done.
yeah,
Never mind.
so,
Okay, got it.
so we do that so that,
And if we did this, then we wouldn't have to do that,
correct,
because you could lock the gate.
correct.
Got it. I just didn't, it's obvious, yeah. Another thing I've never thought of.
I'm not sure why it's on our document. Isn't it something that's a done deal and
Yeah, I know.
it's good to go?
I think, it seems as if Nancy wanted, some input just to make sure that we were supportive of moving forward. Because it was approved.
Yeah, many of you weren't here during that discussion when we
Right.
talked about options downstairs, and this one is the one that seemed to be most conducive to consider. And so, as the mayor said, I believe Nancy just wanted to make sure that everybody was still on board with moving forward with those renovations, and if not, then we need to hear about it before we proceed.
Okay,
So-
I'm on board.
You're on board.
I saw there's a wine bar in the right-hand corner, is that right? Is that?
Is that with an H?
Yeah.
It's gonna add close to 70 square feet, so that room is gonna be expanded, noticeably.
More like this room.
It's gonna be smaller than this room, I bet.
It's much smaller.
Oh, is it big enough to?
Not for a lot of people that want to go to work sessions, but we'll just be,
It's gonna make a smaller room. 70 square feet is basically gonna take out about 8 feet of wall and expand it out into that corridor. Give us a little bit more seating.
it's the same place we just held closed session at,
Right.
that room.
Right.
Yeah, in the
And that had-
hallway
that
that
had
we
no
went in
extra
on,
seating.
that's gonna be a portion of the
Ah,
room.
okay.
That,
Okay,
that's
great.
how much
Got it, got it,
more
got
it's
it.
gonna
Thank
get
you.
bigger.
Thank you, I know what you're talking about. Thank, yeah, and someone's looked at this and.
That's, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how many times we revised that little plan for 8 feet of wall, but we've done it, and we've got quotes, and we have a builder that's ready to roll.
Oh, good.
And tell me where the budget's or the 7,000's coming from? Thank you, Marion.
Seeing no objections or questions, I think we can adjourn at 9:05.
Okay. Well